Let's go live to the independent member for Wentworth, Allegra Spender. Thanks for your time. As always, we've got this breaking news now. Peter Dutton confirming he won't be taking a 2030 target to the next election. What are the implications of that, do you think?
Well, I think then it means that the Australian people don't know what they're signing up for if he won't take a target to the next election. You know, it seems to be a lot of confusion, frankly, from the coalition over the last few days and over their energy policy more broadly. You know, we were meant to have nuclear sites before the budget. We haven't. You know, we had one view from Peter Dutton, one view from Ted O'Brien, Barnaby Joyce and Keith Pitt are now saying, you know, let's leave Paris altogether. And I think the community doesn't really know what they stand for, and it sounds like Peter doesn't want to tell them either when it comes to the election.
He had a crack at the Teals. He didn't mention your name, but he mentioned Sophie Scomps and Monique Ryan. He says more often with the Teals, they're more like Greens than Teals. What do you think here? Is he sharpening up the attack against independents like yourself?
Look, I think this is all politics. And for me, you know, I've been really clear who I stand for from the beginning. You know, I met this guy, Sean, in Bondi, and he said, I asked him, what do you care about? And he said, I care about three things. He said, I want to look after the climate and the environment because I live in a beautiful place. I want to pass this to my kids. I want a kind society, a society that looks after people, and I'm a small business owner, and that's really important to me. And I think that's how I voted and dealt within the parliament and how I've represented my entire time in Parliament, which is to say be true to the values of the community who don't want to see a climate fight. And frankly, the business community is being very clear. They do not want to see the climate wars continue because that is bad for the economy. It's bad for Australian businesses. You know, so Peter Dutton is, you know, I think sounds like he's trying to you know, say, oh, well, there's a way of, you know, backtracking and not acknowledging that he really alienates all those people who voted for me and for others who voted for climate action in the last election because, you know, that's what the science says and that's what the economy says.
So do you believe then, given the support you received at the last election, I'll ask you the same question that I asked Sophie Scomps earlier because there's a view that the coalition's given up on the Teal seats. Do you agree with that view?
Look, I'm not, to be honest, I'm not really, it's not something that I spend a lot of time thinking about. What I really think about every day is about what can I do to serve my community, to make sure that I am the best community leader and the best representative for them as possible. And that for me is the most important thing. You know, the coalition's electoral strategy will be what it will be. But for me, what is important, I believe, is if I do the right thing by my community, then I believe I will be supported in the future. But frankly, my most important job right now is to be the best representative I can be right now for my community.
Peter Dutton making the case that the government's crashing the economy with a renewables-only strategy. People are hurting. Anthony Albanese making policies so he can rub shoulders with people in Paris, but it won't help families. Is that something that could resonate, do you think, in Middle Australia?
Look, let's get with the facts on this because I've heard this about, you know, energy bills. Oh, the energy bills have gone up because of renewables. You know, the energy bills have gone up because of a war in Ukraine, which has pushed up fossil fuel prices. So the prices that we have seen, the energy increasing, the cost of energy is driven by fossil fuel prices. You know, the sun's not more expensive, the wind's not more expensive. And if you have solar on your roof and a battery in your garage, you have not been subjected to the same energy price increases as others. So, you know, I think that we need to get with the facts here. You know, there are a lot of people in this country right now who are having a hard time. And you know, for me, I think the question is how do we help them? But let's not sell them, you know, nuclear reactors 15 years down the track because we know that is the most expensive energy that is out there in the economy. That is not going to help them. You know, we need to be helping people right now. We need to be helping more people access, you know, cleaner energy. We need to be helping more businesses, you know, build and grow their businesses. And that's an area where I have some common ground and a significant common ground with the Liberal Party. We need to simplify our industrial relations to make it easier to hire people. I 100% support that, you know, but we shouldn't be basically feeding the community untruths when it comes to what is the cause of their pain right now.
Can the government get to 43% emissions reductions by 2030?
Look, it should. The current projections out of the Environmental Department is to say they're on track for 42. Now, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I think we need to be realistic about the work that needs to be done. But before the last election, the Business Council of Australia said that it would be better for the Australian economy as well as for the environment if we hit a 46 to 50% reduction in emissions by 2030. So there are a lot of policies in place. We will see how effective they are to reach those goals. The government is saying, the Environmental Department is saying that we can reach 42 degrees. I'd like to see us go further, but we need to throw everything that we can at this, because we know that Australia is a country which is some of the most exposed country to the bushfires, to the storms, to the floods that will impact us further with climate change. We know that 2023 was already the hottest year on record, so we can't punt this off till 2050. We need to act now, and we need to have every policy in place to do that. So that's my job, is to make sure that that we do the right policies that can drive those outcomes, but also at the lowest cost. That we don't pursue policies that are going to cost the economy too much, because we need to do this at the lowest cost as well to get to those targets.
Yeah. Before you go, I don't know if you've been asked about this. I wanted to get your reflections on the bipartisan criticism of the Greens over their anti-Semitism and some of their supporting of pro-Palestinian protests. You've got I think, one of the largest, if not the largest, population of Australians of Jewish faith in your electorate. What's your assessment of things when it comes to the Greens?
Look, I think they have behaved irresponsibly in relation to this conflict, and I do support the words of both the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition in their criticism of the Greens last week in Parliament. Mike, what I saw, remember that terrible protest on 2 days after October 7 at the Sydney Opera House. When no one had there was no Gaza work, there was no invasion of Gaza, there was no reprisal from the Israeli army, and instead you had New South Wales Greens encouraging people to go down there so that Jewish people couldn't go there and actually show their solidarity for their friends and loved ones in Israel. And to see the encouragement that many have done in terms of protests that and people not being able to access their parliamentary offices, and members of the public who can't go and visit their local MP or go and get support. That's terrible. Now, I know that the Greens aren't behind all of this, but I think that they have been encouraging this, and I think they have been spreading misinformation as well and using this to political gain, and I don't support it, because these are tough times for our whole country. There are real people out there who are hurting, who have friends and loved ones in Israel, in Gaza. We need to be sympathetic to those people, but we can't turn this into any more political contest than it already is.
Allegra Spender, thanks as always. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Kieran.